All right, let's talk about Dan Schneider.
Love it. Who ain't?
Who ain't talking about him? Us up until now.
Yeah. Fuck, you're right. We gotta get going. I think it makes sense to start by reflecting on our like childhoods with Nickelodeon.
That makes sense. Good starting point. I love this. Why don't you take the lead more often?
Oh, I guess I should.
We all have seen them. I've seen every single show he's ever done, except for the ones with the little kids after
Sam and Cat, basically.
Harvey Danger, and whatever the other fucking the Thundermans.
I feel like I particularly was the perfect age to hit the sweet spot of like what like live action Nick was. You know, you think with Nick, you go Rocko's Modern Life. SpongeBob was technically a little bit late into the animation like Hall of Fame for Nickelodeon. Before that, you had like Rocko's Modern Life and a bunch of other shit that's not coming to mind for me for some reason. Oh, like Rugrats. Like that was Rugrats before.
Is vintage. Rugrats
SpongeBob
came out in like 91 or something insane.
Yes. Rugrats was like the favorite cartoon of my household when we were kids.
Weird choice. I liked Rugrats, but I don't think I'd ever say it was my favorite, especially in hindsight. So strange.
It's a weird fucking show.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was weird back then.
It truly is like babies. Like they're babies doing baby stuff, saying baby things with baby problems.
Having baby thoughts.
Having baby thoughts.
It's true.
And they look at the show is very ugly to look at, which I kind of appreciate.
Yeah.
In that it looks like real babies, which are ugly. I love that. Babies look more like babies in Rugrats than they do in what's another cartoon with babies?
In it? Like
very
Invincible,
few.
like Jack. The Incredibles.
Ridiculous. Preposterous.
Yeah.
Preposterous. Tommy Pickles, his head's a fucking lumpy watermelon.
It's so weird.
He's my boy.
He's great.
Anyway, that was your favorite?
That was like, you know, point being, me and my sisters were the age where like that was like, yeah, we love Rugrats. And then SpongeBob soon entered the picture, and that we kind of grew. That's kind of also following us in our age kind of perfectly to where it's like, okay, 5 years later, we're 5 years older. Now SpongeBob and its humor and its vibe are like more.
I can't believe you remember SpongeBob coming out.
Oh, absolutely. I remember it not being out and being like the first season coming out and us being like, wow, we love this new show.
You're like the kid in the focus group in a suit and tie.
I love this new show.
This new show's great, guys.
Now, in the mix of this was like, you know, there was live action stuff. There were like game shows. There was like Figure It Out. There was Double Dare. There was Guts, the aggro crag. There was Legends of the Hidden Temple. And then, but this is all like game show stuff.
Right.
And then there was All That, which was like the sort of transition where it's like, okay, it's kind of random and like non sequitur-y, but it's still not like a scripted sitcom. And then Amanda Show, same thing. And Amanda Show, we fucking loved.
So much better than All That.
Really funny.
To
this day.
Way more curated. Yes. Still funny. All That doesn't hold up. I mean, sure, there's some shit in there that's going to be funny. Like SNL. Some of it's funny. Most of it isn't. The Amanda Show. I mean, wall to wall.
So funny.
It's fucking hilarious.
Moody's Point.
It's like the liar of sketch shows. Yeah. It's good shit. I mean, Amanda Bynes is like very Jim Carrey-esque.
She was OP, overpowered. She was incredible actress.
I agree.
Very funny.
Physical comedy was just out of control.
She could have had it all.
Comedic timing she
was not corrupted by the system.
They got her. They got her good.
So this was the space I was living in for most of my childhood. And then Drake and Josh comes in right when I'm like 13, 14, 15. I forget.
You're that old?
But again, it's like responding to is what it felt like. It's like Rugrats when you're basically a toddler. That's your shit. Yeah. SpongeBob when you're a little bit more conscious and shit gets kind of like double entendre-esque. That's your shit. Now it's Drake and Josh where you're like that age and you're thinking about girls and stuff. And it's like, this was like seminal to me.
Yeah.
Like Drake and Josh was like, this is what we were all needing from you.
Right.
Loved the fuck out of Drake and Josh. And then, yeah, like iCarly, my younger sister was more into it. I was kind of growing out of that whole space by then, but I was keyed into it. Did watch a few episodes. And then I basically went to college, and that was like when Sam and Cat happened, and I totally, like, you told me about the existence of Sam and Cat like last year.
And you missed Victorious entirely.
I caught snippets of Victorious, like, because Brooke, my younger sister, was still in high school, still watching some of that. So like when I'd come home. So yeah, but essentially no.
What about
and Zoe 101?
Zoe 101.
Sorry, I was around for that, but I was more into Drake and Josh than that.
Zoe 101 was kind of concurrent with Drake and Josh. So
yes,
it would have been around.
That was more for Brooke. Drake and Josh more for me, though. She did love Drake and Josh. We loved. There's one episode where they like are in conflict, and then at the end they make up, and Josh is like, "Hug me, brother," and Drake's like, "Not now, man. There's people here." He's like, "Quick one." Drake's like,
"Oh yeah,
yeah, just a quick one."
It's funny. It's good stuff.
Anyways,
the episode when Josh is done, he's like, "I'm just done, man." It's really emotional. This is in one of the later seasons.
Yeah, it's like it's like existential for him, right? It sounds familiar.
Yes, no, it's very
like
heavy.
Big deal. Yeah,
it's heavy. Drake cries in this episode.
Oh my god, that is huge.
Yeah, it's like Drake just keeps fucking up. He like forgets Josh's birthday or some shit, or like he plans this huge surprise party for this new girl he's dating, but it's Josh's birthday, and he's picking up all these cues from Drake that he's throwing a surprise party, and he assumes it's for him, and so he walks into the premiere, the movie theater, acting like, "Oh, what's this? Oh," and everyone's like, "Hi, Josh."
It's not for him.
Yeah, and then Drake's like, "Josh, hide!" He's like, "What? I'm already here." And then the girl walks in, and it's for her. And Josh is like, "Drake, you've known this girl for 2 days or something, like 2 weeks. Did this whole party for her?" And he's like, "Yeah." It's like, and he didn't realize it was Josh's birthday.
Right.
He was basically the culmination of the entire show up until that point, because Drake was just kind of a douche to Josh on a routine basis, and Josh was just finally done with him.
I'm done. Josh is great at being sad. Josh Peck is an actor.
Oh yeah. Yes. Yeah, no, for sure. That all comes to bear in this episode. Not a hint of humor in it. He's just like very matter of fact. He's like, "You know what, man? I'm done." It's like all of a sudden real life consequences to all of the yeah. And it's just heavy. It culminates in this crazy dramatic scene where Drake is like begging Josh to forgive him after everything's.
But is it basically like a big dramatic like, "Listen, man," like does the whole
monologue?
"I'm
sorry, man.
Yeah,
I need you more than you need me. Right. I need you way more than you need me."
And isn't this like there's like a TikTok trend of people playing like Midwest emo intros underneath this scene?
I haven't heard that, but that would work perfectly. Okay, yeah.
Gosh, what? Look, I'm sorry. Look, let me finish, okay? I was wrong, okay? I was wrong. I need you more than you need me. I need you way more than you need me, all right? I'm sorry. Man, I'm sorry I made you late for your exam, and I'm sorry I ran over your bike, and I'm sorry I'm probably the worst brother in the world, and, you know, you're way better off without me, you know? I just need you to understand that I'm sorry, Josh, I'm sorry.
That's such an interesting episode in hindsight, considering they don't speak at all anymore.
Just, we're about to talk about like Quiet on Set and other stuff and watch the Dan Schneider apology. But in my process of like checking into all this stuff again, there's like been clips of Drake and Josh that I've like checked out, clips of Amanda's show. So fucking funny.
Yes.
Way more funny than I even remember.
I'm
loving it.
I know. It has not been that long since I've watched either. The Amanda Show, hilarious.
So funny.
Tony Pajamas. Do you remember that sketch?
Tony.
What was that for?
Yeah.
For being an idiot. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Josh is like, right? It's Josh.
Yeah, he's like the goon. He's like, okay.
Yeah, just chills. And the fact that she would always sign off, be like, "I'm Amanda, and I need to go massage my watermelon."
That's so you. That's how we end every episode, basasically.
Yep. All right, everybody, massage your cheese.
Go
steaks.
massage your watermelon.
Right.
I gotta go take my dog to the orthodontist.
Yeah. Bye bye. See ya.
So random. That was Dan Schneider's sense of humor.
Big kickoff.
Weird and or feet.
A little random. Yeah.
Random. That's what I meant. Like, well, weird in an uncomfortable, confusing way, or random. Just anything random. I think he defined millennial humor in that way.
You're right. Like, you can't knock him for like reading. I mean, clearly he made things that resonate.
I agree. I mean, I found it funny. Still find it funny today. Well, a lot of it. Some of it not so much.
Yeah.
iCarly random dancing always annoyed me.
Yeah, me too.
That's a bit that they kept going for the entire show, which I found staggering. I guess other people liked it. It's got the word random in it. The Amanda show, like what made it so funny was that it was random. I mean,
in its DNA.
In its DNA. Not so random that it wasn't funny. Because if it's obviously, if something's completely random and rooted in nothing, that's Adult Swim, you know?
Right. Like esoteric.
That's funny in a stoner way, but Amanda's show is like, you know, non sequiturs. It was random, but like contained to like, I'm gonna hit you in the face with a turkey dog.
A turkey dog? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a dog and a turkey.
The punchline of that every time was, what random object is she gonna have?
Right.
I'm gonna hit you in the head with the cucumber.
Anyways, okay. So where are you in that timeline? Like you are 3 years younger, 2 years younger than me? Like how similar, dissimilar? How far behind me were you? Or far ahead?
A significant amount, 2 or 3 years.
At that age, it's
I mean, I was
generational.
12 when you were 15.
Yeah.
Like,
so what were you into in the Nickelodeon?
Well, Drake and Josh was my favorite by far.
Yeah.
But I watched all of them. Kenan and Kel, I was too young to really get it, but I watched Kenan and Kel when it came out.
Yeah.
All that. The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, Zoe 101, iCarly, even I tried to give Victorious a chance. I've watched most of Victorious, even though I really don't like hardly any of it.
Yeah, I get that.
I did not really watch Sam and Cat. Sam and Cat is when I officially checked out for multiple reasons. I was too old, and also it was just obviously bad.
It felt like a Disney show. It felt like a Disney Channel show.
It's like everything that there's like this running joke in iCarly. There's the existence of the Dingo channel. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Which is just, it's obviously either calling out the Disney Channel.
Oh, okay. Sure.
How like banal and stupid those TV shows are. Like in the iCarly universe, like there's an episode where they go to Dingo headquarters and do this whole thing.
Right.
And it's like Sam and Cat became basically, and so did iCarly at a certain point, became everything that they were making fun of in those early episodes. I mean, Victorious had some good moments. For sure.
Yeah.
Some great performers in there.
I'm wondering if I feel alone in the hype. I mean, I would have thought it was universal, but I thought Drake and Josh kind of demarcated like, this is the inflection point where it gets more live action with Nickelodeon and succeeds in doing so.
I remember when Drake and Josh came out, I was too young to even think critically about it.
That's right.
iCarly, I remember hype around iCarly.
Yeah.
And iCarly did so well. The hype continued. iCarly's, I think, to date, Dan Schneider's most successful show.
Wow.
I do think Drake and Josh is the funniest Dan Schneider project.
It's funny.
Ever. Purely because of Drake Bell and Josh Peck. I mean,
so good.
Obviously, other people involved with the production. But like, what makes it so funny is them.
They are very funny.
Like, authentically funny all the way through. Miranda Cosgrove, not that funny. Not a bad actress, but not that funny. And honestly, I don't think Jeanette McCurdy was great either. But like, there's some
thought she was set up for success.
Funny writing in there, and yeah, she's doing great now.
Yeah.
She doesn't even act anymore. I can say
Right.
that. She's forced into acting or whatever. I haven't read the book, but
I've listened to the book.
she was doing it for Mother.
You gotta check it out.
Yeah, I think Drake and Josh was just peak performance. I looked up to both of them a lot.
Me too. Did you feel like they embodied two halves of you as a young white man?
Certainly.
I really felt like that. Wanted to be Drake, but was more Joshy
Yeah.
than anything.
Everyone felt that way. Not
Right?
everyone, but yeah.
But
for
I
sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was the average sentiment.
I wanted to be more like Drake. Who didn't?
That was his whole point.
He's got it all.
He's the Donkey Kong.
He's the guy you want to be. He's the guy you want to be. He's cool. plays guitar. He doesn't do homework. Everyone likes him and everything works out for him. He gets to eat junk food all the time.
He's constantly walking into a room and just being like, you, and then just starts making out with the hottest.
Right.
Like,
hey, you, come here. That literally happens.
All the time.
Yeah, it's funny.
And it's funny, but then it's also like, wow, that's pretty pushy on both the supply and demand side. Like, it's to take these kids and just be like, then you make out. Let's run that take 10 times.
Right. Okay, behind the scenes, like, I can't speak to that.
Right.
That seems weird, right? Or maybe it's awesome. I don't know. Probably more uncomfortable. But within the fictive universe, the girls are always like, okay.
Yeah, I know. I mean, all right. Right.
Hey, you want to see a movie with? It's like a girl who's there with her date. It's like, hey, you want? you want? What do you think? We see this movie? She's like, okay. She just leaves her boyfriend.
Hey, you want to see a movie with me?
Sure.
So what's your name?
Hazel.
Oh, like the nut. Okay, I got us 2 tickets to Hazel?
That's the thing about, I think, these shows at this time is that it was like
it was envelope pushing.
It was envelope pushing. They had to read the room and, they went a little too far on some shit, and it was like a growing pains thing. It's not that simple. There were some deliberately fucked up things that happened, but it's just interesting to reflect on.
All right, well, should we need to preface this apology video at all?
Yes. So there's this documentary you've all been hearing about, I'm sure, called Quiet on Set. It was on HBO Max. It's on HBO Max. It's all about a lot of the behind the scenes kind of trauma and issues surrounding these Nick shows.
The Dan Schneider shows specifically. There's a lot of actors and actresses from that time that spoke in this documentary. And we've both watched it. We've not discussed it yet. It is unequivocal that he created a space and an organization and some capacity to make these shows happen. And a lot of shit happened on his watch that he turned a blind eye to, was not empathetic toward or proactive about or encouraged. And a lot of it seems, and then if you mix it with the Jeanette McCurdy book, it adds a little bit more like dimensionality to it. But dang, maybe I should read that. Does he talk about the book too?
He does not.
Interesting.
Jeanette McCurdy and Dan Schneider seem to be like, they don't talk about each other. It's kind of weird.
Well, she doesn't call him out by name for obvious reasons in the book. That's why no one has addressed anything with Dan Schneider.
She says that she was offered $300,000 of hush money.
Oh.
From Nickelodeon.
Oh, that's why everyone keeps talking about hush money.
Yeah.
Because Drake or Josh Peck didn't participate in the documentary. And so everyone descended on him on Instagram, saying, "How'd you spend that hush money?" Like, man, hush money must be good or whatever. I'm like,
got it.
I don't think the fact that Josh Peck didn't want to participate in that documentary, I personally don't buy that it was hush money. I think it was probably him just being just like an abundance of caution, not wanting to make waves because he's still in the industry. And I don't think it was the hush money.
It's also just like this. Documentary airs and you're gonna be mad at that there wasn't 100% participate. Like, right, they're like, you have to say something. I don't who else, like, what about Amanda Bynes? Why aren't we fucking descending on her? Josh Peck has a podcast that he does every week, right? He has a big Instagram following, and he put out like a screenshot text. Yes, you've seen this post. Yeah, addressing it, and like, I reached out to Drake privately, which, like, whether or not he made that post, like, he's not going to announce that Drake Bell's on the podcast all of a sudden. Like, that would be amazing. We'd all love that. But super, super unlikely. We don't even know what the beef is between them. Well, did you see Drake Bell's TikTok responding to that? No.
Hey, what's up, guys? I just want to clear something up. I've noticed a lot of comments on some of Josh's TikToks and some of his posts, and I just want to let you guys know that this is really, processing this and going through this is a really emotional time, and a lot of it's very, very difficult. So not everything is put out to the public, but I just want you guys to know that he has reached out to me, and it's been very sensitive, but he has reached out to talk with me and help me work through this, and has been really, really great. So I just wanted to let you guys know that and to take it a little easy on it.
That's nice.
It is.
Up until now, everyone was on Josh's side, and everyone demonized Drake.
I know.
It's funny how quickly the tide turns.
I know.
And people bug the shit out of me. Everyone's ready to just fucking crucify everybody. Why don't we crucify the
Dan, the only guy worth
yeah? Why don't we
crucifying?
crucify Dan Schneider?
Okay, so this documentary we just reflected on, or we just talked about, references Dan Schneider's sins a lot, and Dan Schneider, about a week after this aired, put up this apology video, which I have watched. Michael has not watched.
Is it on YouTube?
It is on YouTube, and we're gonna watch it and talk about it.
All right, here we go.
Do you remember Tebow from?
Yeah, this is Tebow. Yeah. This is Tebow from iCarly.
Yeah.
Okay.
He
That's very random.
Yeah, you'll see.
I'm here with my boy Dan Schneider. All right.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Hey, it's Boogie. I played Tebow on Nickelodeon's iCarly. I got a chance to watch the Quiet on Set program, and I reached out to Dan to see if it was something that he'd be willing to discuss. I'm pleased to say that he said yes. Dan, how are you?
I'm okay. I really appreciate you reaching out and
Look how
giving
red
me
his
the
lips
opportunity
are.
to talk to you about what we saw over the last 2 nights.
I'm really
Good
glad
shoes.
you're here because I believe this is important.
He's got chunky shoes.
Got a lot of things to unpack. But before I dive into my list of topics that I'd like to discuss, is there anything you'd like to start off with?
Absolutely. Watching over the past 2 nights was very difficult. Me facing my past behaviors, some of which are embarrassing.
He's lost a
and
lot
I
of weight.
regret.
I know.
And I definitely
Just
owe some
commenting on his
people a
appearance.
pretty strong apology.
We have to talk about it.
Let's
hair
talk about
seems
the
dyed.
massages.
Okay.
Watching the content yesterday, it was disturbing.
It's a fake face.
It was wrong.
That's
it was
a-
wrong that I
that's
ever
a
put
fake
anybody in
beard.
that position.
Glue on
It was
beard.
the wrong thing to do. I'd never do it today. I'm embarrassed that I did it then. I apologize to anybody that I ever put in that situation. And even additionally, I apologize to the people who were walking around Video Village or wherever they happened, because there were lots of people there who witnessed it who also may have felt uncomfortable. So I owe them an apology as well.
Yeah. Dan, talk to me about the writer's room. From what I saw, not cool.
No, and I don't mean to cut you off, but if I can cut right to the chase, let me just say.
Yeah, what are you
Putting it lightly.
What are
It's
you
like,
gonna say?
it's such a softball. I mean, like,
What
we all
I
know what this
saw,
is. I'm not going to pretend like we don't. Like, remember when you had asked that woman to pretend she was getting raped for your amusement?
Yeah.
Not cool.
I know.
No writer should ever feel uncomfortable in any writer's room, ever, period, the end, no excuses. Most TV writers, comedy writers have been in writers' rooms, and they are aware that a lot of times there are inappropriate jokes made and inappropriate topics come up. But the fact that I participated in that, especially when I was leading the room, it embarrasses me. I shouldn't have done it. And I can tell you why it hurts really bad for me. I remember very clearly my early experiences, my first experiences in the entertainment business. I was green, I was scared, I was excited. It meant the world to me that I was getting those opportunities. And I went in and I got lucky because they were great. My first couple of experiences were fantastic. And the fact that I didn't pay that forward to every employee that walked through my door, it hurts my heart, because I should have. And I wish I could go back and fix that. In the writer's room, there's no doubt that sometimes those jokes went beyond the pale, and I said things that went too far, or made practical jokes that went too far, and that was wrong. And that was because, I was an inexperienced producer. I was immature. Wouldn't happen today, but I'm just really sorry it happened.
Yeah.
He's saying all the right things here. He's like, yeah, I was inexperienced. It was wrong. There's no defense there.
Alexa Nicholas was pointing out, and I thought this was made a lot of sense, which is just like, he's refracting everything into this, where he doesn't really have to apologize directly. Like,
Right.
what he needs to do is go directly to that person and offer whatever he can, sympathy is, or apologize, and then see how he can make it right. But instead, it's like, let's hire this other person who was there.
Yeah.
Also, like a person of color, so it's kind of like, oh, I'm being pluralistic. Like, so look, I'm also not like, and then have him be on his side and have it be an interview and have it be a video and have it be passive. Like,
I'm disappointed that he's not making eye contact with the camera. Right.
Right.
Like that would feel a lot better if it was just like him alone making the statement.
Right. Like, like that would be, I guess, better, but it's still like,
it feels
okay.
like BoJack Horseman. Like, you know, like you get together with your publicist, which you do, and you come up with this idea, you shoot at your house, and like it's in-house. You're connecting this in-house interview, so you have full control over it.
Exactly.
Right? So you could redo your answers, obviously.
Yeah, maybe this is the fifth take.
This could be the fifth take to get the right level of, you know, of regret in there.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we all know, obviously, they would workshop it if it didn't land right the first time.
And this is like, how do I apologize without actually apologizing to the people I hurt? Is kind of what this is.
Right.
How much good can you do in this format? It's debatable. Maybe that's better than nothing. Some people would disagree. I don't know.
Better than nothing. I mean, for him and his career, whatever's left of it, I think better than nothing. But
yeah,
for the victims, probably worse.
More incensing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see what Boogie has to say.
You've had a lot of success over 2 decades. Thousands of people have worked with you, for you.
Okay.
Let's speak directly to the people who did not have a good experience with you.
Okay, I would like to speak to those people because I hate that anybody worked for me and didn't have a good time. You know me. You've been on my sets. Look, I've had some employees that have worked for me for 10 years, some more than 20 years, who would work with me again, but not everybody. There's still a significant number that didn't have a great time working for me, so my batting average isn't nearly high enough in that area. And the way they wouldn't get the best of me is that I would let the pressure of doing 40 or even more episodes per year, I would let that pressure get to me, which a good boss should never, ever do.
Was there specific things that you were doing?
Sure. I would snap at people sometimes. I would be snarky when I could have given them a nicer answer. I would not give people the time that they needed. I would be in too big a hurry to get on to the next thing I had to do. And watching that show, it made me, there were so many times I wanted to pick up a phone and call some of those people and say, I'm so sorry and let's talk about it. And
So why didn't you?
I wish you'd had a better time and I wish I could have shown you a better experience.
Yeah. Now,
he didn't do that.
Right. Sometimes I wish I could have picked up the phone.
The phone was just too far. I was like, the battery was dead, and I just,
Yeah.
damn it. I really wish I could call.
Man, everyone's done fucked up shit. You know? It's in some fashion, whether intentionally or unintentionally. And, like, I'll be transparent-ish about this. Like, I've been not a good partner to people romantically in a way that's, like, yeah, not good. And that I was, like, hiding or being a combination of ignorant to / not wanting to face and kind of being like, I'm a good guy. I didn't really do that. The circumstances were different. And then, like, ended up having, like, elongated conversations with that person to make sure, once I, like, saw what had happened, to, like, make sure it got figured out and she felt, like, totally absolved.
Right.
I don't really know what the takeaway from me sharing that other than
you were aware of the damage caused, and
eventually. I think that's the key. Like, in the moment, I was either quiet. I probably was aware of it, but I was not letting it enter the forefront. When it became clear to me, I was like, I have to go through the very delayed and very intense, uncomfortable set of conversations this person needs for me to feel like, for them to feel like I've apologized sufficiently.
yeah. Well, I think, you know, those with the heavy conscience, or a conscience of any kind, it's hard to walk around and sleep at night knowing that you've hurt people.
Yeah.
You want to address it. You want to bury the beef, squash the hatchet.
Wow.
I get that, but Dan Schneider is probably not one of those people. You got to be a little little bit of a sociopath.
Yeah, well, you're probably, and like everything around you is maybe encouraging that feeling.
Oh, sure.
Like for me, I was in a privileged place when I kind of hurt this person. And so when I was able to kind of look around me and be like, well, everyone's on my side about this. Like I run this zone, this friend group or whatever. And if he felt deep down, he would never be able to say it. Like, I cannot apologize. Like, I'm incapable. Like, I can't imagine a time where apologizing directly to someone would be something that is asked of me, because it's like, I'm giving awards and money.
Yeah,
and
I'm the guy.
opportunities.
If I needed to apologize in general is to admit fault or mistakes, and you just don't got time for that when you're making fat stacks. No time for apologies.
Right. Or apologizing would just slow up the supply chain.
Yeah.
It's like other people have been hurt by me and not needed my apology, and then we go on and we
Right.
keep making money.
Well, it's a lot easier to believe that, the other person is just being sensitive or whatever.
Right.
It's a lot more cozy and comfy.
It's like, well, you're not the one succeeding in pulling this forward in this massive way. So
Yeah.
you're the one that needs to get on board with these rules.
Yeah, it seems to be the mentality.
But currently, where we are, some people think that some of those jokes are inappropriate for children. What do you think of that?
All these jokes that you're speaking of, that the show covered over the past 2 nights, every one of those jokes was written for a kid audience because kids thought they were funny and only funny. Okay? Now we have some adults looking back at them 20 years later through their lens, and they're looking at them and they're saying, I don't think that's appropriate for a kid show. And I have no problem with that. If that's how anyone feels, let's cut those jokes out of the show. Just like I would have done 20 years ago or 25 years ago. I cut it. I want my shows to be popular. I want everyone to like. The more people who like the shows, the happier I am.
Yeah.
So if there's anything in a show that needs to be cut because it's upsetting somebody, let's cut it.
So I think it's big for you to say, with your work, if it's viewed as that today, you don't have a problem.
Cut it. Cut it.
I mean, that's a solution.
The last thing I want to ever do is put any content in a show that's going to upset my audience and make them want to turn off the TV. Why would I ever want to do that?
That makes sense. I want to give you an opportunity to kind of elaborate on something.
Okay.
The thought process
Because he
from
found
the
it funny,
series is
and
you
he
had
could
the
get away
power
with
to
it,
just
right?
write a joke,
I mean,
and no matter what, it's going on TV. You just had that type of power. Is that true?
The notion that I had the power to just produce whatever I wanted and have it air is completely false.
Okay.
There were many, many levels of scrutiny. Okay? We had executives in LA. We had executives in New York.
So 2 coasts.
2 coasts
Okay.
of approval.
The-
Yes. And by the way,
coasts.
approval at every stage, really.
Not 3.
And I'm talking
coasts
about
on,
wardrobe. I'm talking about makeup, sound, sets, dialogue, jokes, everything.
Now, when you say approval, obviously that's a hierarchy, not your colleagues or
right.
people in the room. Okay.
No, not my colleagues. No, these are my bosses. Bosses, and then their bosses, and then their bosses. And they're approving all of this stuff.
Okay.
Okay? And we're also shooting it in front of all sorts of adults and caregivers and the set teacher and the families. Everybody's watching it. And if anybody had said anything, hey, we don't like that, that's not appropriate, then it would have been cut out.
Now, I'm gonna push back a little bit
Sure.
because the series painted you in this way
Right.
that you were just the guy that
This is
was
what I was
doing
gonna
what he
ask.
wanted, and people were afraid to confront you about things. So say, just humor me, say that was the case. What would have been the ultimate way to...
Okay. If nobody on the set, if all of the dozens and dozens of adults that were on the set, if they didn't say anything, if my bosses said, if they insisted, you got to make a change here, you got to cut that, I had to do it. I had no choice.
Got it. Now this
All
next
right.
one
I want to talk about
kind
that.
of hit close to home.
Yeah, he didn't really answer that. He didn't really address it. He was like basically asking him to acknowledge, but you have to admit, people were afraid to bring this stuff up to you. He's like, well, nobody told me not to do it. How are you supposed to know if no one says anything? That's not even what he didn't even acknowledge that he had that power, which I
Right.
find to be a little bit willfully ignorant.
Yeah, it's number one, it's like, okay, no one said anything because you kind of made sure no one could.
Yeah.
Like, number one. Number two, this thing about the layers of bosses, I'm like, okay, that just seems like it was more fucked up than we realized. Like, okay, so it goes beyond you. People are like, someone somewhere above him was like sliding something across their desk being like, so this is a little fucked, but what do we want to do about it? And it's just like, just write it off. We need to make $1 million.
Just like,
let it fly.
Dan, oh my God.
Like,
all right, air it, let's go.
And then maybe there's a call downstream where it's like, Dan, buddy, just watch that a little bit next time, but otherwise you're fucking killing it.
Yeah, probably.
And like that little, whatever, this is a made up scenario, but if things are getting passed up the chain, then if there was ever grievances at the ground floor that made it up there, they're getting reduced to this thing that's just like, well, is this going to make money? Like, okay, well, it's a cost-benefit analysis. Like, we'll just deal with the HR shit as it comes.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I feel like he dodged the question entirely. It's like, why didn't anyone say anything is the question.
Right. He's like, well, my bosses didn't say anything.
Yeah, so what am I supposed to do?
Well, your bosses aren't really... They're not the subject of the documentary.
Right.
They're your bosses.
But they're also they're more distanced from the actual shit. And they're just seeing this guy who's like making tons of money and they're maybe hearing comments, but they're probably also, they're supposed to kind of police him as their employee.
Yeah.
And they're not really doing that to the fullest extent.
Sure. I think if anything, all that indicates is that, he's sharing the blame a little bit, which isn't necessarily wrong. But he fucked that one up.
All right, let's see what's up.
Now, we also saw the series highlight 2 former writers' viewers, 2 women, who spoke about a wage discrepancy. Now, I know that you don't divvy out
this shit.
Salaries. Talk to me about that part.
Well, you're correct. I have nothing to do with paying writers. I never have. I've never made a writer's deal. And of all the writers I've been in a writer's room with, I never even knew how much most of them were getting paid.
Yeah, but we saw these 2 women who were writers for you sharing one salary. How does that happen?
It's very simple. There's a common practice in television when hiring writers. If you have a spot for a new writer, sometimes you'll go to 2 writers and say, hey, if you 2 new writers for your first job are willing to share a salary, you can both have the job. They have the opportunity to say, yes, that sounds good, or no, no thank you. In this case, it was 2 women writers. I've done another show where that teaming was done with 2 male writers, and they split a salary. I did another show where it was a male and a female writer, and they split a salary. So,
and these are all first-time writers?
All first-time writers looking for their first gig.
Got it. Now, in the series, they also highlighted 2 black actors. Who
are they going to talk about the phone call that woman says she got from Dan? Because she says Dan called her after he was contacted by the Writers Guild or whatever, saying that you're not allowed to do that.
Mm-hmm. And
he was like, if I find out this was you, you'll never work in this industry again. That's what she says happened. Is Tebow not going to mention that?
I hate the whole groundwork of it. I don't like, in what universe is it like, hey, 10 people are interviewing for this job, and we're coming to the top 2 and saying, hey, do you both want to earn $20,000 like to do the same job? Who would say yes to that?
It's a very common practice.
If it is, then that's fucked.
It is. Of course it's fucked.
But like,
that's showbiz,
I've ever
baby.
heard of that.
Yeah.
And if this is actually like widespread throughout many different shows and writers' rooms, I mean, I guess it's a tale as old as time in the sense of like, creative people are always like shortchanged.
Yeah, it's obviously problematic, but also,
how is that? It's just weird. It's like
it directly contradicts the story that was told on that documentary,
right? Which was like they just seemed to realize it afterward, right?
Well, yes, they both made it sound like they weren't told up front that that's what was going on, and that also it wasn't allowed. Like it was a secret. Like the show was pulling a fast one, quote unquote.
They're painting it to be like, this is transparently aware, and sometimes people opt into it.
Right.
That seems both incorrect and contradictory to the... Yeah.
Not even why they quit in the first place.
Right. It was it was worse for other reasons.
'Twas worse.
Now, I want to be clear. I'm never going to speak on anyone else's journey. Yeah. I can talk about my experience, how my experience was with you, what I saw prior to working with you, but again, I don't want to speak on anyone's journey. I saw you be honored for diversity in your work.
Yes, and the reason for that is diversity has always been very important to me in my shows. If you go back to the very first Nickelodeon show I ever made, that's very evident, as it is in the second one, and then the first movie I ever made for Nickelodeon, which starred Keenan and Kel, and every show I did after that had a lead black actor in it. I'm very proud of that. It's very important to me.
Just a little smile.
And not only am I proud that they were in my shows, I'm exceptionally proud of the achievements they've had beyond my shows, and they've gone on to bigger and better things, and that gives me a great sense of pride.
Well, something that really kind of bothered me was how they depicted your relationship with the cast.
Yeah, it bothered me too.
Yeah, just me being there, I knew the dynamic was trust. I understood that in situations where they may have had turmoil, whether it be with their families, whether it be other castmates, they came to you, versus how they made you look. With that said, Amanda Bynes was brought up in the series and her emancipation and how you were involved in that. Can you talk to us about it a bit?
Sure. Amanda was between the ages of 16 and 17, and she wanted to get emancipated from her parents, which was a fairly common thing with successful young actors, at least at the time.
Sure.
And she wanted that for herself. So she turned to her team, which included her lawyer, her agent, her manager, her publicist, me, because she included me as part of her team, thought of me that way. We supported her. She tried to get emancipated, and it ended up not working out, and she didn't.
Well, since we're here, let's stay here for a moment. There was also an incident where she had ran away from home, if you would. Can you talk to us a little bit just to clear the air of exactly what happened in that situation?
Yes. One night, it was very late, well after midnight, 1 or 2 in the morning, phone rang, I answered, it was Amanda. She was upset, she was in distress, she had had some conflict with her parents, I think her father, and she called me. I was immediately concerned about her safety. I called someone who I knew was fairly nearby. That person was able to go and pick her up. Then I knew she was safe. I felt better. She ended up being taken to the police.
Well, regardless of what some people may think, I think it's only positive that you are there for people when they need you. That said, let's talk about some of the things that
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to. What do you have to say?
Well, it's just fun. The delivery was funny.
Yeah, I just
regardless of what other people think, I think it's wonderful that you're there for people who need you. You know who they should have got to do this interview? Helen from Drake and Josh.
Yes.
Not only is she black, which is clearly important for this interview, but she's a woman. And
there you go.
She put some stank on it. She would grill him. What do you say to that, girl? Oh my God. I don't think she would have done it because they need someone who's going to play ball. He's obviously being very soft on Dan.
And it's like scripted, definitely.
Yeah, it's scripted as fuck. Which is so, what do you expect? We didn't expect a response at all. I certainly didn't.
Yeah, me either.
So this is meeting my expectations.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Right.
The Amanda Bynes emancipation thing. I don't remember hearing about the running away story.
For me, what's coming to mind for me right now is the boundary issues of you have children employed in this way. First of all, there's unique elements to being of a certain that young and being employed.
Right.
But then also just the boundaries issues of why are there a lot of these people surrogate parents to these kids?
Yeah.
And I get on one hand it's
the process of emancipation, which was very common at the time. At the time, I feel like that's a sinister thing.
Right, let's get them away. Yeah.
He slipped the at the time in there, almost acknowledging that it was bad to begin with, but not really. More forlorn. Unfortunately, we're not allowed to do this anymore.
Right.
But I'm not going to talk about why.
We used to be able to get an extra couple years of child labor that was legal.
Yeah. What good motive could there? The conflict of interest is insane.
These pesky parents. Wish I didn't have to deal with them.
I mean, that's the way it looked in the documentary, with Brian Peck trying to get
no relation.
Drake's dad out of the way.
Yeah, exactly. All that shit. It's like Dan gets to swoop in and be like, well, Amanda would have died that night if I wasn't so close with her. If she didn't feel
saved
safe
her
to come
life.
for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, but should anyone be calling their boss when they're going through a personal, should it be that close?
Yeah, having like an adult mentor who isn't your parents or whatever. If you have bad parents, that's not controversial. But like Dan Schneider being her boss, standing to monetarily gain from her emancipation,
Right.
You know, like the conflict of interest there. We should discuss that. I'm not conducting the interview, unfortunately. It's not me. It's not Helen. It's Tebow, and he's been bought out. The hush money.
It's so
I'm sure. I wonder what his Instagram looks like right now.
I know, and what I want to know.
I'm not in favor of lynch mobbing anyone on the internet,
right,
unless they're, unless it's Brian Peck's Instagram. Like, yeah, okay,
right, like the guy, the devil,
the guy. This is just a gig for Tebow.
It seems so weird,
but it is a shame,
why is he the unique person that says yes to this? Like, what about is he that he's basically on Dan's side?
They needed someone of color,
right,
to do this interview. They didn't want two white guys talking. I assume there's no woman who they could get to do it. I assume, because any woman would be better than a man. I feel like this would be a much more meaningful interview, even if she is an employee of Dan. But you can't have that. No matter what, they needed an employee to do this interview. Which is like a symptom of the problem that's talked about in the show. I think it's Tebow just because he's, an affable, neutral to this documentary character.
Right.
Who is black.
But yes, like that's the
You think Kenan Thompson would fucking do this?
Right. Well, that's my point. Like, that's the pool to pick from. Who amongst this tiny pool, why is Tebow even the one saying yes? I would think none of them.
Oh, yeah. Why
yes.
would Tebow say yes? I don't know.
Money.
Because money and who knows what else is he doing right now? Like, this is probably good publicity for him.
He's probably like, okay, I can swoop in for $10,000 and just do this and go back to my life of obscurity.
I hope it was more than $10,000, but maybe it wasn't. Yeah, I mean, sure, for sure. Like, it's like money is involved, which is again, it's not even it's not a controversial thing to say. Like, of course he was paid to do this. As to why it's him, because he would do it, and maybe Kenan Thompson would have done it for $2 million. Like, any celebrity will do an ad for anything for enough money because it's just a job.
Yeah.
But like, this is extremely controversial.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want to be the guy giving the softball interview to Dan Schneider after all the shit just came out. So I hope it was like a good amount. And honestly, like, I'm not judging him too hard. I'm embarrassed for him. We haven't even finished the interview, but like, he's not a journalist.
Right.
So, like, what do you expect? If he was a full-time journalist, then like, yeah, you can hold him to a certain standard. But he's just a guy. He's an actor. He's literally an actor.
Right. It just feels like what this is Dan being like, well, this black actor on my set liked me. What do you say to that? Like, that's just 20 minutes of that. Like, almost they could say anything in this interview. Just the optics of this guy's interviewing this guy. It kind of just feels like, okay, well, that's all I can do right now. And then hopefully this blows over.
If this was meant to be a real meaningful apology, I feel like one of those kids from the documentary,
right,
would have been amazing to have on. That would have been like emotional.
Hit a higher view count too.
Oh yeah, what's the view count on this?
Almost 2 million.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
But yeah, if Alexa Nicholas, she would have. I don't know if she would have said yes to it. But she would have been like ready to tear his fucking eyes out.
Right. That's too hot.
Right.
I think that's too hot to have a again, she's also none of these people are journalists. So if you're picking from the pool, I mean, I would much rather watch that interview than this one.
Right.
But she's coming in super hot. Yeah. I think the kid who had to wear the dick nose costume.
Yeah, he would have been great.
He would have been great
for this.
I feel like he would come in like honestly wanting answers.
And keep it cool enough to get somewhere.
Right.
The dick shoulder thing. So insane.
I thought it was like, no, it doesn't look like that when that part came up in the documentary.
Same.
I feel like everyone felt that way.
Yeah.
But then you get more context and the other shit that Dan was doing on set deliberately, like the cum shot thing, or like, what else was it? What was the other thing that really sealed the deal?
There's just like talk about like lines about your boobs. Like this whole episode, the AC's broken, and so they're just all into like their underwear.
Oh,
Like-
that's the Victorious thing.
Yeah.
Penelope Taint. When that came out, when they were talking about that, and like
Please.
Dan, knew that's what it meant, and that was like a funny joke to him. But
Right.
like when he was asked about the producers, he played dumb about it.
Right.
That to me is the point where I bought in. I was like, okay, he knows what he's doing. Maybe those were dicks on that costume. All the adults were snickering about it on set, not to the kids, but like that's what it looks
just
like.
side, yeah.
I mean, he's like, I didn't know. Nobody told me not to do it. I mean, I agree. It looks like a cum shot,
Right.
and it's very funny to me. But nobody told me
Don't
not to
let
do
me
it.
get away with it, then. Like that's
It's on you all.
kind of what it's like, right?
Yeah.
Just don't let me get away with these things I think are funny that are like on the fucking tightrope of appropriate.
Yeah. Do we talk about his foot fetish in this? No. You don't.
It
I know
never comes up.
I know it doesn't. Having a foot fetish is not a crime.
No.
It's not even a crime to bare a child's feet on TV. That's not illegal, but it's fucking weird. We all agree. When like it's
It just seems smugly. It just seems like, ooh, this is a weird little secret stage where I can like throw some of this shit out there and get away with it.
It's like if I'm doing an edit for somebody and I superimpose a dick on it at 1% opacity.
Right.
So
Technically, yeah.
pretty much impossible to see, but it's there.
Right.
And I just like, I've considered doing that before. I would never do that.
That's funny.
But like,
comb all his stuff.
I've joked about, I'm sure there's some AI out there that could actually undo that if I really did. Anyway, I think that's what Dan Schneider was doing.
Right.
With the dick and cum stuff.
Okay.
Let's keep watching.
You were banned from your set.
Never happened. That is a false rumor.
What happened?
Add it to the list of false rumors.
Talk to me. What happened?
Talk
They
to me,
were-
Dane.
Adult actresses at the time, and they had their own specific reasons for not wanting to do the show anymore. I'm not judging that.
Same again.
It got tense, and what they don't know, maybe, is I did everything I could to make that show go away. My producer partner at the time, we would call and say, this is not a good situation.
Okay.
So I decided I'm going to do what most showrunners do, which is you're not on the set. There's a director there to shoot it.
Wait, he's talking about Sam and Cat, and
Yeah,
why did
Ariana Grande and Jenna McCurdy.
and why did he want it canceled? Because it was a bad
Ariana
environment.
Grande is getting like sucked away into her music career. Jenna McCurdy's mom died.
Oh, right.
Jeanette never wanted to act. They had tension because it was just the morale was low. No one really it was hard logistically to get together.
Yeah.
That's what I've gathered.
And he's saying he wasn't banned from that set, but he chose to walk away from it or pull back from it.
Yeah, he's saying right now, you're right. Now I'm like, what? Why are you talking about this? Because it is confusing.
I'll go up to the writer's room. I'll work on the next script. But because everybody was so used to me caring about every detail of every show so much, for me not to be on the set, maybe some people thought I got banned.
So it was more of an assumption because this guy's usually here and now he's not.
I don't know if it was an assumption. I don't know if somebody thought they were making me look bad by saying I got banned from the set. I have no idea.
Okay.
All I know is I was.
Well, we know what he thinks. I believe that. I don't think that's unusual. And also, it doesn't even really matter to me if he was banned or not, like at this point. He is right. He doesn't need to be on set. Maybe he was just bored of the show. Like, the show was terrible.
It sucks, dude.
So maybe he just didn't want to work on it anymore.
I don't understand this connection between the show is kind of falling apart and we didn't want it to continue, so I left. I don't get that. Why is that I was trying to remedy this.
He didn't even leave the show. He just didn't. He just
whatever.
didn't go to. He was working on scripts.
Right. Like, why is it the best thing I could do for getting this show to be more comfortable is to, what does that say? If you're if it's not,
He's not
involuntarily-
boycotting the show. He's actually still working on it. He's just not showing up to set anymore. Which, if he's such a friend to the cast, you would think that would be an absence that would be more stressful for them.
Right. You would think this show is falling apart. There was tensions. I need to mitigate a lot of this stuff. people were relying on me to either make the show better or end it.
Right.
So so I abandoned not the whole thing, but I get less available.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't really make
follow
sense
that logic.
unless he's admitting that by removing himself from the physical set, he was in fact improving morale.
Which is an admission.
It probably is the case.
It's
but
weird.
He's not phrasing it that way.
I don't get it.
What else does he have to say?
Let's see.
The darkest part of this series discuss child predators. Now, I want to make sure that we clear a couple of things up.
Okay.
Brian Peck was not hired by you.
No, I did not hire Brian Peck.
This was a Tolan Robbins production?
Yeah. And when Drake and I talked and he told me what had happened, I was more devastated by that than anything that ever happened to me in my career thus far. And I told him, I'm here for you. What do you need? Which Drake mentioned in the show that we watched last night. And next, I heard that he went to court when this guy was being tried, Peck. And when Drake walked in, he saw 50 people sitting on the side of the courtroom supporting Peck. A lot of them pretty famous. Of course, Drake was devastated that happened. And even more disappointing, 41 of those people wrote letters for Peck, character letters, praising him for who he was and asking for leniency. And they knew that he was guilty. They knew he had confessed to some degree, and they still did this. That's baffling that adults would do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people know this, but Drake's mom, a lovely woman who I stay in contact with this day, she came to me at the time and she said, Dan, I'm not good with words like you are. And
Weirdly flattering. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool flex.
would you help me with my speech for the judge? And I said, of course. And I did. And he ended up going to prison and serving his time. And yeah, that was probably the darkest part of my career. And here's the kicker that I really don't get. After he got out of prison and was, to my knowledge, a registered sex offender, he was hired on a Disney Channel show.
I wanted to ask, like, why, he wasn't in court on the day if there were so many people turning up. Like, Dan Schneider didn't appear, if he was on Drake Bell's side.
Yeah. I want to know the whole logistics behind that. Like, who would have been called? Do you remember what Drake's talking about, like what he said to the kind of courtroom? And it was like, perfect.
It was the most like scathing thing a 15-year-old could say.
To those who haven't watched, he's in court, as the victim of this sexual assault.
Right. And in the bleachers or whatever, you got fucking James Marsden.
Yeah.
He was on there. He's the one that sticks out to me because that seems so random. All these people who showed up to support Brian Peck. I just picture the court like this, like full house on the Brian Peck side, and Jake's side is just like his mom and dad.
Right, exactly.
Which, I don't know if that's an accurate depiction, but like...
Yeah, basically it was like, I'm going to live the rest of my life trying to forget this. You are going to live the rest of your life remembering that you defended this fucking asshole.
Yeah.
And it is like, whoa.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, where the fuck is Brian Peck? On a Disney show? Was, at least?
It's a great question. Like,
where's he?
Where's he right now?
He is running. Yes, for sure, dude.
That man has got to be, he must be outside of the country. I mean, like, people would
what a fucking
talk
asshole.
about modern lynch mobs. Like, if that guy is free and
he's being tracked,
running wild, like, he's going to get killed.
Yeah, like, Anonymous must immediately was like, fire up the servers, fire up the computers. Like,
where's his interview with Dan Schneider?
Oh my god!
Not with Dan Schneider.
Holy shit!
Tebow interviews Brian Peck.
Oh
next.
my god, that would
gives
just
him the softball interview. Now, Brian.
Oh my god! Well, see, a lot of people, I think, obviously, like the confirmed issues, the confirmed defenses of Brian Peck and Dan Schneider, not the same,
right?
But a lot of people would that illuminates kind of what this is for a lot of people. It's like, okay, what if Brian Peck was talking to Tebow in this way? You would be like, get the this is insulting purely that this is even set up this way. I think a lot of people are responding to this in that way.
Of course, I have no doubt. You made the point earlier. Like, is this better than nothing? Overall, I don't think it's better than nothing for a lot of the people who suffered on his sets. It's probably worse.
Right.
But Drake Bell's always he had nothing bad to say about Dan Schneider on his part.
That's true.
So probably meaningful for him and some people who had a good experience on his shows.
Appreciate you sharing that, man. Are you okay? You want to take a minute?
Yeah, I'm all right. Let's keep going.
Yeah? Okay.
You're
I think
a trooper,
we really
Dan.
unpacked some important things. We set the record straight on a lot of things. Before I let you get out of here, I appreciate the vulnerability that you used.
Love if they zoomed out to that wide again and Dan's actually just like his ankles are shackled.
Over us. There's like a TNT.
He's like, you see his right arms below the camera. He's just got a gun pointed right.
Now, before I let you get out of here.
Before I let you get out of here, I appreciate the vulnerability that you use in knowing that there's definitely things that you would have and should have done differently. Is there anything that we haven't discussed? Anything that if you could go back and navigate the journey differently, what would that look like?
Yeah, there's definitely things that I would do differently. One that I think would be really, really important is when you're hiring young actors, minors, to work in television, I would suggest that we have a licensed therapist there to oversee that process for the specific reason of making sure that those kids really wanted to do this job, that they really wanted to be on television. Maybe they should even be informed about what that means. What's it going to mean if you're famous? What's that going to mean on social media? What's it going to mean within your family? Let them find out. And then that way, if a kid doesn't want to be on a TV show, they can opt out. That psychologist, that therapist could come to us and say, this kid doesn't want to do it, or their parents aren't understanding of what's going to come. And then we could avoid the mistake of ever putting a kid in a TV show that didn't want to be there. And additionally, the main thing that I would change is how I treat people and everyone. I definitely at times didn't give people the best of me. I didn't show enough patience. I could be cocky and definitely overambitious and sometimes just straight up rude and obnoxious, and I am so sorry that I ever was. And all right, when I watched the show, I could see the hurt in some people's eyes, and it made me feel awful and regretful and sorry. I wish I could go back, especially to those earlier years of my career, and bring the growth and the experience that I have now and just do a better job and never, ever feel like it was okay to be an asshole to anyone, ever. Look, I wanted to make funny TV shows for kids, and we definitely did that. But if I could go back, I would get it done in different ways. I'd just be nicer as often as possible and listen more to the people on my team. And I would do everything that I could to make sure that everyone had a good experience. That's what I do differently.
Dan, I appreciate your time.
I appreciate you.
Thanks for stopping by me.
Thank you.
So
Oh,
this is a thought that's been coming up for me during this whole situation. Both like during the documentary, all the shit I've watched afterward. I'm just like, is a child actor, should that happen, period? Are they of sound mind to opt into this crazy ass thing that they're about to do?
I don't think we should abolish child actors. Lots of kids want to be actors. What you want isn't always the best thing for you. I think the whole industry needs to be worked on to make it safer, less abusive.
Yeah.
I think there's a way to make it better, but I don't think the concept of kids acting is inherently bad.
Right.
I think being famous as a kid gonna fuck you up for life. Yeah.
Well, okay, basically synonymous. That is, I guess, more my question.
Yeah.
Like,
what do we do to fix the problem of child fame just ruining your future?
Yeah.
For multiple reasons. I mean, there's the Arrested Development side of things. Then there's the, what do we do with these kids afterwards once they're no longer marketable?
You're all used up, me boy.
You're all used up. Better go to law school.
That's the trouble. And then some handle it, quote unquote, well, I guess.
But yeah, how do you even define that? Like getting out of it and not dying, not overdosing or some shit?
Right, like Britney Spears, similar character to a lot.
For sure.
Different sector of things, but
Britney Spears, Amanda Bynes, similar stories and situations.
Lindsay Lohan for a moment.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, she's fucked up.
Well, yeah, we've all decided she's not the butt of the joke anymore. We've all moved on. Now Lizzo's the butt of the joke for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't get that. Neither of them did anything wrong.
We handle fame so well.
I think we do. We're better than most people, so that helps. And we're way more famous than Amanda Bynes, which I think helps too, because she's kind of has been, but we're like really fresh and relevant. So thank you to our fans. We love our fans. Anyway, yeah, it was a really weak documentary. Hated the way it ended.
You called this the whole documentary.
Sorry, no. The very weak interview.
Apology. Okay.
Weak interview. Hated the way it ended. Tebow really had no control over the situation, but he damaged his reputation by doing this.
That's my thing. That's kind of what I was trying to get at.
But who was fucking thinking about him at all? Like, what's he got to lose?
He's the perfect, like, random sideline guy who's like, right, has less to lose.
Right.
And was like, well, I was there. I was on one of the fucking sets that, like, Jeanette McCurdy had a lot to say about that really fucked her up.
Oh, right, yeah.
So, and I'm saying you're good. There's no way Tebow's like, me and Dan golf every so often, and, like, I got it. He knows I got his back. It's like, who knows? We don't know. But it seems like he plucked him out of security, being like, can you be my fall guy with me?
Yeah.
It's like, for $50,000? Oh, okay. Like,
I'm sure they emailed him, at least. Got a phone call. Maybe from Dan. Probably.
You gotta help me out, buddy.
I'd love to hear the process of putting this little interview together. Who they reached out to, who said no.
Well, I can't wait for the next interview. Apologizing for this.
Yeah, and who conducts that interview?
Helen.
Right.
I'm not going easy on you.
All right, Dan.
It's like in a wrestling rink with two recliners.
Right, yeah.
There's a market here, right? He could do another one of these responding to this, and then it could be a whole thing. Like,
maybe
Dan
instead of
Schneider.
doing sitcoms, Dan just does a never-ending series of apology videos.
Yeah, clearing the air with Dan Schneider.
Yeah, about that last video.
That's what it's called.
Right.
About that last video. That's the series.
That's a great new show for Dan.
I'm so sorry. Episode 86 of this. I'm so sorry for episode 85.
I fucked up again. If I could do things differently, I would be nicer.
Yeah.
It's like, sorry, I was cranky because I had to deliver 40 episodes a season. Okay, I would snap at people sometimes. Sorry. What do you want me to say?
That's pretty much all I said.
Yeah, that's the gist of it.
I don't know.
Cool. Pointless.
This doesn't shove me definitively into one side. Like, I'm not like now so much more mad at him.
No,
and I'm also not so much more understanding of it.
Super ineffectual interview. Yeah, I really don't feel differently at all about anything.
Also,
after watching
three cameras were set up. Like,
it was a lot.
It's a production.
It really should have just been him talking to a phone. Or talking to fucking Anderson Cooper.
I get that there's like the public eye saying like, what do you want to do? What are you gonna do? But it's weird to me because it's like he should go individually to everyone, solve it all out, and then no one has to even comment on it publicly.
Right, before he did this interview, like if he's doing an apology tour, this should have come after he reached out individually to everybody on that fucking show,
right?
Except for the ones who he's accusing of lying. I wasn't banned technically. I decided I didn't want to be on set anymore. Sure, that's not really the conversation. That's not the topic, but
Yeah.
okay, you weren't banned. You were fired later, though.
Right.
From the entire conglomerate of Viacom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's interesting. That's an interesting thing that wasn't addressed.
God.
Good stuff. Well, we gotta stop.
Yes.
That's another one.
Another one. DJ Khaled.
One more time. Celebration.
Yeah, exactly. No, you gonna do it right tonight. Hey, it's feeling.
That's great.
It's good. It's time to stop going.
Yeah, I have a hard time stopping. All right, that's it. The plug has been pulled.